Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're getting into something super fascinating, a highly rare kind of cognitive wiring found in very, very few people. It's this mental architecture that doesn't shout for attention. Instead, it operates silently, just kind of humming in the background of everyday life. We're going to walk through the specific, quiet habits that reveal this extraordinary way of thinking. And hey, definitely stick with me until the end, because the seventh habit we're going to uncover, it's an absolute paradigm shifter. It might literally redefine how you see yourself.
So we're all pretty much conditioned by society's loud myth of intelligence, right? We're taught that being smart is all about public intelligence. Getting perfect grades, having a shelf full of trophies, dropping big words at dinner parties, or aggressively winning every single argument on the internet. But behavioral psychology has been quietly pointing out a much more uncomfortable truth for decades now. Real intellect, what we might call private intelligence, is often completely unseen. It doesn't live on a stage, it hides. It whispers. It works the night shift inside your own head long after everyone else is asleep. Maybe while you're just standing alone in the kitchen at 2 a.m.
Okay, let's dive into this. Psychologists suggest that less than 2% of people actually experience these specific, quiet, mental habits we're about to cover. And look, we aren't talking about having a standard high IQ or passing some academic test here. No, we're talking about a baseline operating frequency of the brain that is so entirely different, the people around you have probably never even noticed it. So let's explore exactly what puts someone in this exclusive 2%. Think about the last time you faced a genuinely complicated problem, or just a really unclear situation. The average human mind, it absolutely panics at uncertainty. Unresolved questions literally feel physically dangerous to the brain, kind of like holding your breath. So what do most people do? They rush for cheap, premature closure. They just grab the first half-decent explanation lying around so they can feel safe and close the case. But a highly intelligent mind does something that goes against all basic instincts. It actually embraces the uncomfortable. It sits with the unknown. And that brings us to a really crucial concept: epistemic patience. Basically, this is the ability to just sit with a question, letting it breathe, without forcing a shallow answer. If you've ever stayed with a problem for days or even weeks, not because you couldn't answer it, but because you flat out refused to answer it badly, well, this is exactly what you were doing. Brain scans actually show that this kind of intellectual gravity lights up regions of the brain that most adults never fully activate. You aren't just being indecisive, you're building a mind that can hold contradiction without breaking.
Now that kind of patience allows for something beautifully counterintuitive, something called active self-opposition. Most people spend their private time alone in their heads just kind of cheering for themselves, replaying arguments they won, polishing their egos, but the rare mind catches itself doing the exact opposite. You actually put yourself in the position of your toughest critic. You build the absolute strongest possible case against your own opinion, just to see if it survives the stress test. And to be clear, this is not self-doubt. This is the exact intellectual courage and mental engine used by minds like Charles Darwin and Albert Einstein. You just want the truth way more than you want the comfort of being right.
And this brilliantly illustrates how a highly intelligent mind seamlessly processes and upgrades information across completely different timelines. You are constantly upgrading your inner world, internally, in the past, and right now in the present. Let's actually break down how this works, because the way you execute these incredible mental upgrades is honestly just fascinating.
So internally, this looks like emotional differentiation. Look, anyone can feel angry or sad, but almost nobody stops right in the middle of a feeling to ask, wait, why this exact reaction? Why this level of intensity right now? When you trace an emotion backwards through your week, kind of like a detective following a trail, you're treating your feelings as raw data. You decode them rather than just blindly reacting to them. And this right here, this separates the people who are just helpless passengers in an emotional storm from the genuinely intelligent minds who are actually reading the map.
Now, this analytical approach extends backward too, through what's called cognitive flexibility. Essentially, this is the habit of quietly rewriting your own past. Highly intelligent people don't revisit memories just for sweet nostalgia or to beat themselves up. They revisit them for mental upgrades. It's that somewhat lonely, quiet habit where, say, you're washing dishes at age 30 and suddenly, boom, you understand the true meaning of an awkward comment someone made to you back in the 8th grade. You act as the director of your own mind, constantly reorganizing and editing the script of your life so your understanding just keeps getting better.
And in real time, this manifests as metacognitive flexibility. This is a true, quiet superpower. Most people commit to a mental direction and they will ride it right off a cliff, just out of pure momentum, mostly because they're terrified of looking inconsistent. But you have the egoist ability to pivot mid-thought. You'll be halfway through a sentence in your head, realize it's flawed, and just instantly pivot without even flinching. You are completely willing to sacrifice your ego and be wrong for 4 seconds so that you can be right for the next 40 years.
Now, obviously, all this internal processing requires immense energy, which brings us to how this rare wiring fuels the hungry mind. We live in a society that absolutely worships productivity, right? So most curiosity is highly transactional. People learn things to pass a test, to get a promotion, or maybe just to impress someone at a party. Curiosity usually comes with a deal. But what happens when you strip away that external reward? For the rare mind, curiosity isn't a transaction. It's raw, undeniable fuel.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the infamous late-night rabbit hole. I know you know the feeling. Hour 1, you're casually looking up how octopuses change their skin color. By hour 2, you are deep into investigating ancient Roman underground sewers. And by hour 3, you're actively decoding the logistics of the 1847 postal system. You don't work in marine biology, you aren't an ancient architect, there's literally zero practical payoff for this. Psychologists call this intrinsic intellectual drive. It proves your thinking isn't trapped in the cage of practicality. This so-called useless curiosity is actually the clearest, most reliable fingerprint of genuine intelligence. Okay, everything we've discussed so far, the epistemic patience, the self-opposition, those crazy late-night rabbit holes, it all builds to one foundational pillar, our 7th habit. It is the crucial difference between merely isolating yourself to tolerate being alone and truly, deeply enjoying the company of your own mind. Psychology defines this as autonomous cognitive engagement. Simply put, it means your mind is a rich, colorful playground that is entirely self-sufficient. Going for a long walk around the park without your phone doesn't feel like a punishment to you. It feels like an absolute luxury. Sitting by a window doing literally nothing but watching your own thoughts flow, that feels like coming home. You have built a mind that generates its own joy and entertainment without needing to borrow the outside world's noise just to feel okay. So, the crucial point here is that modern society pushes this intense addiction to noise. People are terrified of empty space and they desperately need screens to fill the psychological void. But what you have is grounded peace. When your mind is good company, stillness is no longer empty. It is a space densely packed with creativity and self-understanding. So, your need for solitude, it isn't a social flaw. It's not a sign of isolation. It's actually a sign that you have cultivated the healthiest, strongest relationship you will ever build, the relationship with yourself. Which leaves us with this really powerful thought. Real intelligence has never lived on stage. It hides, it whispers, it lives in the kitchen at 2 a.m. on the walk you took alone. All of these unseen, maybe even slightly weird habits, they aren't mistakes. They are undeniable evidence. They are proof that while nothing visible was happening on the outside, your mind has been doing incredibly serious, heavy-lifting work all along. To wrap up the explainer today, I really want to turn this over to you. Which of these quiet habits do you actually recognize in your own mind? Was it the epistemic patience, the late-night rabbit holes, or maybe that real-time thought editing? Look, once you can name the patterns that make your thinking different, you can finally stop judging yourself and start claiming your unique cognitive identity. So think about it. Embrace the quiet superpower of your own rare mind. Thanks for hanging out with me, and definitely keep feeding that curiosity.